Well, hello and welcome to the Wednesday Word. This is the Desert Spring Church podcast, and we're coming to you from our very fancy studio here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And my name is Julie Hart. I'm Director of Connectional Ministries here at the church, and I'm going to be the host of today's podcast. We just had a month of parenting, and so hopefully y'all, those parents out there and grandparents, got to learn a thing or two. And we're kind of circling back because we had a pretty great time with some of our married couples in the church and the great stories. And so I'm excited. It's like brought back by popular demand. We have another lovely couple here, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Also, first-time podcast guests, but our podcast listeners. So I'd love for you both to introduce yourselves and just a little bit about your involvement here at Desert Spring. And Kay, we will start with you.
My name is Behn, and we have been members of Desert Spring for almost 15 years. We came here right after Pastor Dave came. He came in July, I believe, and we came the following April. And I've been very involved with lots of ministries in the church. I'm an usher, I'm a liturgist, I play in the handbell choir, I belong to some of the circles that we have. I just get involved.
Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Well, welcome. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And tell us about your fabulous husband.
This is my fabulous husband, Bob, and you'll notice his voice is a little different. We'll kind of tell you the story as we go along, but he had some throat cancer, so he can only speak, and I call it a sexy whisper.
It is. He's got the DJ voice, Bob, is what I think. So Bob, welcome.
Hello.
Nice to have you.
Tell him what you do in the church.
I don't get involved very much.
You an usher?
You do. Usher?
I attend Sundays and I'm an usher.
Yeah, and a regular attender. So we're just so happy to have you here. And I have a lot of questions for you, but let's start with, how many years have y'all been married?
This August will be 52 years that we've been married. And as my husband likes to say, for those of you who don't know us, if you look at the picture, we did it before it was fashionable.
You did, and I really want to talk about this. First of all, it's the cutest picture here that I have that will be posted with this episode. And you did it before it was fashionable. So for listeners who would not know, you're a biracial couple, and that's doesn't seem like a big deal today so much, depending on what part of the country we live in.
True.
But boy, in your time, this was a pretty big deal.
Especially in the mid to late 60s.
Yeah. So I'm very curious to hear about your story and how that came to be, because for younger listeners, it's like, what's the deal? It's right. It kind of was a deal.
It was a big deal.
A real big deal. So let's start with how you both met.
We met at Drake University.
Drake University.
She was a cheerleader, and I was a jock.
The cheerleader and the jock meet at Drake University. You can't make this stuff up, but I've told you, if you're listening, you know, almost all our couples have met in college. So.
And this was in Iowa, too, so that makes it worse.
Yeah, Drake University, the cheerleader and the jock. You're just like a college musical waiting to happen. And okay, so I guess we should back up before you came to college. What was life like before college?
Separate but equal.
Separate but equal.
Yeah, I grew up in Gary, Indiana, and actually Bob grew up in Downers Grove, Illinois, which wasn't that far, but we never, of course, would have ever met under normal circumstances. But we both went to Drake University. I grew up in a family with one sister and my parents, and they were very involved in the church, and I've been to church pretty much all my life, and wanted to go somewhere that wasn't too far from home, but I was following my sister.
You were following your sister. And what
Right.
what did you study at Drake University?
Education. I got a degree in education, and I got a master's degree later in guidance and counseling. So I was an elementary school teacher for a few years, and then a guidance counselor in middle schools for about 6 or 7 years. And then I got involved with Mary Kay Cosmetics, and that was just going to be a summer thing because we weren't going to be working. And when school started again, I thought, oh, well, maybe I can continue doing this while I went back to work. And after a few months, I realized I was really making more money with Mary Kay than I was working as a school counselor 40 hours a week.
That's the good and bad news of it, right?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's kind of sad.
It
Good
really
for
is.
you.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so I took a leave of absence and just did it for one semester just to see if I could kind of live on, just this Mary Kay money. And I found that I could. So at the end of the semester, I asked if I could take a leave for the rest of the school year. They said, no, you either have to come back now or you're going to have to quit. I said, okay, fine, I quit. So I kind of grew up thinking I was going to be a teacher because that's what everybody in my family was teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to school, I studied education. And like I said, Mary Kay just kind of happened out of the blue in the first school district that I was in. One of the people was having a party, and I love parties, so I said, what are you having, and how come I wasn't invited?
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of started. So for almost 47 years, I've been doing Mary Kay. So, like I said, it was just kind of fate, I guess, that we met in school, but that was home. Okay.
That was home. Okay. All right. So, Bob, tell us about life before college.
Downers Grove. Played baseball.
Baseball player. Mm-hmm.
We won the state championship
All right. Get that. Good. State champions. That's awesome.
in 1961.
And you were the pitcher.
And I was the pitcher.
You were the pitcher. Of course you were the pitcher. That's the coolest one.
But
You went on a scholarship. Sorry.
I love it.
I have to tell 'em
This
this
is like the
story.
perfect example of a married couple. Like she's reminding you about your life before. That's great.
I did 2 years of junior college and then transferred into Drake. First year at Drake, one of the girls, not my wife, decided I was, or should be, one of the most eligible bachelors,
Yeah.
which I lost. A basketball player.
Those basketball players.
But I was there for business management.
Business management. Okay. So you went to school on a baseball scholarship to study business and you went for education. Were you the same class? Did you go in at the same year?
We were the same class, but because he came in as a junior college transfer, I had already been there for 2 years. And so he came in my junior year, and that was when we first met.
And we were both juniors.
And
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
swept up the second most eligible bachelor of the entire university?
No. He swept up me. I was not interested at all.
That's great.
It. I guess we have to kind of segue to how we first met.
Yeah,
on
let's
campus.
do it. Let's do it.
As
I
he
wanted to
mentioned,
get study hall. You're in study hall, right?
got to get it all out. No, as he mentioned, I was a cheerleader, and we had co-ed cheerleading squad. So my cheerleading partner was a guy that I kind of sort of had a little crush on. I didn't realize at the time. He was a Caucasian guy too, so, when we went to, they were having rush for his fraternity for my cheerleading partner, whose name also happens to be Bob, so it confuses
That's
his
very
story.
confusing.
Yeah, but he was trying to recruit my Bob into his fraternity. So he says, why don't we go out on a double date? And so I said, okay, fine. So my cheerleading partner and I went out together, and my future husband, Bob.
Okay. This is a similar story because I've already heard this story with the Scobies, right? Where it's like the friends, like, okay,
Right.
all right, okay.
And so he invited somebody from a class that he knew, just a girl.
That was the girl that most eligible bachelor. Claudia's not the back.
She was the most eligible.
No, she was the one that
Nominated you. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
dorm.
Her dorm. Okay. So that's how he got
Okay.
picked. So he picked her to go out on the double date.
Her name was not Kay, though.
No.
Not another
No.
Kay. Okay.
That was Claudia. So we went on the double date together, and it's kind of interesting because this Bob now had a car, and we all went together. He was driving. I was next to him. No, I was in the back seat.
I told her she didn't have to sit in the back seat.
Yeah, he did that. Again, this is in the 60s,
This
folks.
is a different time,
This is
y'all.
a different time.
Different time.
Yeah, so I was sitting in the back with my cheerleader partner, Bob, and he was sitting in the front with his date. The whole time we were on the date, he was talking to me. I was talking to my Bob, the cheerleader guy, because, like I said, I kind of had a crush on him. And my cheerleader partner was trying to talk to this Bob, because we didn't find out till years later that he was gay. So.
Oh, you were just like you're the one. You're
That
the
got
man
away.
of the hour, Bob.
I was very popular.
The one that got away. So you were competing with a few.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man. Good on you, Kay.
Yeah, so that's how he. So then after that date, this Bob asked me to go out, and I said, "Oh no, I don't date white guys," And he said, "Well, you were with Bob." He's like, I said, "Yeah, but he's my cheering partner. That doesn't count. That was just a friend thing."
And you didn't date white men because of the time, or
Probably because I'd never been
wouldn't have
around white men. I
Okay.
mean, we grew up in Gary, Indiana, which
Right.
doesn't have a whole lot of a whole lot of white people. I went to a predominantly all black school, and I mean, the most white people I saw was when I went to Drake, and so I told him. I mean, it just never occurred to me. It wasn't in my,
right.
So when he asked me, I said, "No, I'm sorry, I don't date white guys." And then he kept asking, and he kept asking.
That's too bad because you can't do anything about that. I mean, it's
That's
like
right.
if I don't date baseball players, you can switch to basketball. If I don't date, but what are you going to do?
You can't change that. So he was persistent, and so finally I relented, and I was going to go with him to study in his dorm. And when he came to pick me up in my dorm, I think I had a stack of books about 8 feet tall that I was going to take to make sure we were going to be studying.
So your first date was a study date?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you had in mind, Bob? Okay. Okay, we had in mind studying.
Just to get to know her better.
Okay.
That's how we met.
So when did you begin to think maybe?
Well, it's interesting because there were not that many black people at Drake, and there was about 5 or 6 girls who had come in the same year as I did, and we were all in the same dorm, and we just got to be really good friends and kept up with each other, and they were the ones that kind of came to me once and said, "You know what? We see you walking around campus holding hands with this white guy. I don't know if that's right. We need to have a meeting." And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Now, are these white or black
No, they're
women?
black. These are black women
saying the same right.
These are all the
Okay.
black girls saying, "No, this isn't right."
You
Yeah,
were
that's
the
what-
4 musketeers. Okay, you were one of the 4, and they
Yeah.
were uncomfortable
They
with
were
it.
very uncomfortable.
It
with
was a different time. It
Yeah.
was not seen.
No, and the only interracial couples at that time usually were the black athletes and the white girls. And the black athletes just always dated the white girls, So there were no black guys for us to date, They were all dating the white girls. So they thought it was that same thing in reverse, the white athlete and the black girl, And I said, "No, it's not that. I think, there's something there." So I don't know. It was probably months maybe or so later that we realized. And so when they wanted to have this meeting with us, I was scared to death.
With both of you, they're sitting you
Oh
both
yeah.
down.
Oh yeah. They wanted to sit down with both of us. And I'm
Ooh.
like,
They
okay.
just wanted to sit down with you and you.
I made him come.
Okay.
Yeah.
You dragged
that's
him
probably
along.
it. Oh yeah. He was my
Okay.
protector.
So you, that's,
And again, this is the 60s, Black Power. And one of my friends was really, we called her militant. And I mean, she was all, when there were rallies and things going on, she was right at the front. And
yeah.
and these are the ones that wanted to come talk to me about walking around the campus with this white guy. And I think, I don't know about this. So
Wow.
we had our talk.
Story.
Which one? Oh,
You look good now.
Because I had the car.
You had the car. Bob with the car.
mm-hmm.
I would go to the basketball games. I would drive
Mm-hmm.
while she was cheerleading. And so this friend of ours, I won't name her,
The militant.
she didn't want to come with me, but it was the only way she could.
Yeah, Bob's got wheels.
So she asked. I said, sure. So we get to the stadium, and the whole student section is entirely empty, except for 2 white guys. They're in the 3rd row up, and they're 8 feet apart, clearly saving space for their friends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our friend walked up to him and said, "Excuse me, are you saving these seats?" And they said, "Yes." She said,
Okay, she sat in the middle. So she's a rebel rouser.
Oh, yeah.
She's gotcha.
And she's the one that wanted to have a meeting with us. I'm thinking like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, I can see why you would be nervous now. I'm starting to understand.
Yeah.
Okay, how did the meeting go?
It went fine. They realized that it wasn't just an athlete-student type thing, that there was really something there. And after that, they were fine. They were supportive of us. In fact, all of them were in our wedding, and we continue to this day to meet on, we call them yaya phone calls once a month. They're all, all over the country.
Yeah.
But they're still our, some of our best friends. So.
And so tell me, well, first of all, you tell me, because you were the first one to notice Kay. And what was it about her that made you want to ask her out?
I've always had a thing about cheerleaders.
Well, I mean, obviously, she's adorable. I've seen the picture here. Now, not the cheerleader picture. I want one of those, but yeah.
Of course, she's good looking.
She's beautiful. So it was just strict. I thought you were going to say like her brains or something. No, I was. She was beautiful. Okay. So I can see why. I can see why still she would be the love of your life, because still she's beautiful. Okay, so what was it about the jock sitting next to you here?
It wasn't so much the jock thing probably had a little to do with it. I've always, of course, been a cheerleader, been around jocks all my life, but he was just so nice. He was just...
His kindness.
Oh, my gosh. He was the nicest person. He did things that... It does. Yeah, he is. He is. I mean, he was the kind of guy that opens doors and pulls chairs out and
True
helps
gentleman.
you with your coat. Yeah, and he still does that. And I guess I just wasn't used to that with, guys I had dated before. I hadn't dated a whole lot in high school or anything, but yeah, he was different, I guess.
He treated you right.
He did.
So how long did y'all date before you started talking about marriage?
We were juniors in college, and we graduated. So, and we got married in 76, about 3 or 4 years.
So you dated
About
3 or 4 years.
Yeah. And one thing I kind of may let people know who, again, didn't live in the 60s, my folks were fine with us dating and, are you sure this is what you want to do, that kind of thing. But on the other hand...
Bob, your parents?
My parents.
Not so much.
Specifically my mother.
Uh-huh.
Went along with her because he had to live with her.
Right, yeah, for sure.
But they always told me not to hate anybody because of the color of skin or the religion or anything. Very close to him.
Just don't bring her home for dinner.
Yep.
My mother was Italian.
Mm-hmm.
My father was German.
Oh, wow. German, Italian. Okay.
And
Passionate,
when she actually passed, my dad was still around, and he warmed up quite a bit from the original situation, but she wanted to take away the car. Her parents.
The will.
Want to take away the car, write you out of the will, make...
They would give me a car.
Oh.
So they were going to do everything they could to discourage.
Wow.
And the thing that was, I guess, most eye-opening for me was, like I said, we were in college and we went home for Thanksgiving, and we had even joked about having both of our parents come to homecoming and getting them tickets next to each other without knowing who they each were to sit together at the game. But that didn't happen. But he had sent them a picture of me. And again, this was in the 60s, and I had my big Angela Davis fro and my glasses.
Just love this.
And he sent them a picture of me. And when we went home for that Thanksgiving, his mother refused to let me in the house. We couldn't eat. I mean, there was no Thanksgiving dinner. And she never met our youngest son until he was 9 years old, because she wouldn't let us in the house. And the only reason that we got to go to their house then was because his dad had a heart attack. And we went back to visit them. They were still in Illinois. And that was the first time they'd ever met our youngest son. So all that year, one other time that when we were there, one of the first and few times I was there, because you know how you send kids pictures home for, school pictures and grandma and grandparents and
Yeah.
everything. And I'd send pictures, and I went in their room where the TV was, and I realized I don't see any of the pictures around anywhere. So I was looking for the TV guide, and there was a drawer under the cabinet the TV was on. And I opened it up looking for the guide. Every picture I'd ever sent them was face down inside that drawer.
Harsh.
That was it. So, yeah. So, needless to say, we didn't have a real smooth relationship. They didn't come to our wedding. They didn't want to have anything to do with it.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Baseball coach came.
Yeah. Yeah. His coach came.
And I know it was a different time. It's just hard to fathom. And even in this time, I'm sure still scenarios in people's homes today.
Yeah.
I don't kid myself that it still doesn't happen. So how did you make peace with that, Bob?
I just did what I thought I needed to do.
You followed your heart. Mm-hmm. And so marrying Kay meant kind of like, being pretty separated from your family.
Well, not me so much, but
Our kids.
her inclusion
Yeah.
was what bothered me the most. But, like I said, once Mother passed and Dad was there, he went on vacation with us several times.
Mm-hmm.
Hung with the grandkids.
Yeah.
So he was much better than when Mother was still alive.
And so that you still went to the home. You were still allowed. So you just kind of made it where you would stay home, Kay, when you would go and yeah, how did you work out holidays?
I was just going to say, I remember one Christmas Eve we were there because they had a big thing where Christmas Eves, I guess, I don't know if it's Italians or Germans or whatever, would, get together on Christmas Eve. And we came to the house. He had his German grandmother. Actually, his mother's mother had met me, and she was okay. She was okay with everything, but his grandmother on his dad's side never even knew we had gotten married. I mean, we had been married for years.
Because there were no pictures in the house,
no,
of course. Right.
And whenever he would go to visit her, he'd take off his wedding ring. So she wouldn't even know that we were married. But, we had Christmases where I was in my home and he was over with family or friends or whatever. And I'll never forget, there was a Christmas Eve that he had a good friend that played baseball and went to high school and all with him who lived nearby. And so I was going to go to his house and kind of hang out, until I could, go back and be with him. And he would flip lights off and on in the window like it's okay for you to come now into the house because, I don't know. It was crazy.
Wow.
But I went to his friend's house and he said, well, we're having our, family dinner or whatever. So I went to a mall that was down the road from where they lived. And, of course, it was all closed and dark. And I just walked around the mall. I said, this is a horrible way to spend a Christmas Eve.
It's painful.
It really was. Even now I think about it. And
it hurt. Actually, I feel hurt
Yeah.
hearing you say it. I can feel that pain in my own heart. And I just, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's
And it's
okay.
just like, what a loss for them.
Well, that's the thing. He's an only child. So they had no other children. They had no other grandchildren. And I'm thinking, and you asked how do we kind of accept this? It got to the point I said, you know what? They're the ones that are going to miss out because these are the only grandchildren they will ever have. They don't have any other kids. So if they don't want to have a part in their lives, that's on them.
And you would kind of think like, okay, after some years go by, that maybe they'd be like, all right, this lady's not going away. I guess,
Yeah,
guess
we
we
gotta
better.
put up with her.
I guess we better go ahead and invite her in. But that just until your mother passed, of course, and then your father. It's just that's very hurtful, and just what a shame. And I'm sorry for that. And I admire you, Bob, for just not, because a lot of people
Hanging
could
in
say,
there.
well, and at that point they could have said, and parents sometimes say, I just don't want your life to be hard, or you'll be choosing a hard path, or they can hide their prejudice or whatever under that kind of, like this, it's not me, it's the world. Well,
What will your kids be like? And I remember him saying once, he says, well, hopefully by the time they're old enough, people won't be as prejudiced as they are now. I don't know if that's all totally true. But
I'm just curious how you came from that and you didn't carry that, because that's really how prejudice keeps going on in the world. It's learned. It's a learned thing. So how was that not learned for you?
It was pretty much my parents not suggesting that you dislike anyone because of the color of their skin or their religion or ethnicity, any of that stuff. And so I was okay with it until they decided that gay was an exception to that rule.
Well, I mean,
Guess
again,
it's coming to dinner, yeah.
coming to dinner. It's okay out there, but it's not okay at home. So, well, so you now, okay, let's get to happy part. So you propose.
Yes.
You propose. And true confessions, are you going to confess, Kay, that you could not actually remember your proposal?
I could not.
That's amazing. So Bob had to refresh your memory.
He did.
So tell me about that.
We were, actually, I was at her parents' house. And prior to me asking her, I asked her father
That's how it's supposed to go. Good on you.
for hand in marriage.
Told you he was a gentleman.
That's a gentleman, for real.
And so he said he was okay with it. And so then we were in her den. And I got down on one knee and I proposed. And she can't remember.
She can't remember. Still, I'm looking at her face. She's like, I got nothing. I got nothing here. She woke up one day and there was a ring on her finger. She has no idea how that happened. You maybe just were in shock. At the moment. Did you not expect it was happening? Maybe.
I don't even know.
I'm trying to save you here, girl. I don't know.
I don't know if you can.
These are the moments that are so. But you knew and you'd planned and you did it the right way. That's classy. And you asked for her hand
first.
and that's beautiful. So.
Actually, before we got married, because I was at the time teaching in Iowa, he had graduated a semester behind me. And so when I was in graduate school, I had an apartment and I was working as a teacher, counselor, whatever. But he ended up getting a job in Davenport, which is where we were. And he got an apartment right next to mine. So we both lived in apartments next door to each other. Now, again, this is back in the 60s. You didn't just move in with people, We
Right.
both paid rent on apartments
Wow.
next door to each other for
Yeah.
years before we got married.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the time we lived in.
That's the time.
I mean, it never occurred to us to live together. I mean, you just didn't do that.
Yeah.
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 So.
We used to visit.
You used to visit each other.
Yeah.
Lots of visiting. And so you get married, and what was your wedding like? And where were you married? And
The wedding was beautiful. We got married in Gary, Indiana, in my home church. And our theme was like a rainbow of colors because we were, two different colors. Our bridesmaids each had on a different color, pastel colors.
mm-hmm.
Our wedding cake, I think the bottom layer was vanilla, the middle layer was chocolate, and the top layer was marble.
So you really
We
did you
played it
mixed
up.
it up. I love that so much.
And the bride and groom on the top, I had to get a magic marker and color in the face of the bride so that she was brown and the groom was white.
I bet you couldn't.
No,
there's
you
no
couldn't
way
find
you
one.
could
No,
find that
Mm-mm,
then.
No, I don't even know if you can find one now. Probably
You can.
could. Yeah. Oh, can
You
you?
can.
Okay.
You can find all
both
kinds
ways.
of toppers.
Yeah.
You can do all kinds of things
And
now.
we still have that wedding topper. In fact,
Oh,
when we had our
wow.
50th anniversary, we had the wedding topper there.
Oh,
so,
that's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So in Gary, Indiana.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And the minister who wedded us, who married us back in 1972, did a special video along with my Yaya girlfriends from Drake that were in the wedding, and they made a video that was beautiful from when we first met at Drake, and it kind of went through the whole story.
it's beautiful.
And he gave a beautiful prayer at the end. We tried to get him to come, but he's 92 years old, so he couldn't make it. But yeah, so and then Pastor David, of course, renewed our vows here.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And so then what was married life like? Again, in a time where already, you look different than people expect. And I'm sure that you encountered that a lot.
You have to start off with our honeymoon.
Oh, yeah. I almost pissed. I missed the best part. Where was your honeymoon?
Club.
The Playboy Club in Lincoln,
Lake Geneva,
Lake
Wisconsin.
Geneva, Wisconsin. I can't.
That was him.
Good deal.
Mm-hmm.
It was a deal. There was a special going on at the Playboy Club.
Got your room, all your food, all the entertainment, all the sports.
The sports package.
Activity.
You got the sports package.
I was tired. I'm out anymore. Because one of the things we did was skeet shooting.
Skeet shooting. I've never done that. Yeah.
So if you've ever done it, it's a semicircle.
Uh-huh.
So Kay was at the far left. Because you changed positions.
Uh-huh.
I was at the far right.
And she had a bad aim, is what I feel like is coming right now.
The instructor's talking to her and she turns.
Oh, God.
We also a couple that got married that we knew from college.
Mm-hmm.
You tell that story.
Yeah, we were sitting in the restaurant, and I hear somebody walk past, and they said, "Hey, Kay," and I'm thinking, who knows me here? Nobody in the world knows. And there was a guy that we went to college with, went to Drake with. We used to drive back and forth down the I-80 coming home because he was from Chicago. He and his wife had just gotten married that day, and they were on their honeymoon.
Oh, that's sweet. That's so
yeah.
sweet. That's wonderful.
Oh yeah, you just
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was fun.
So you get married and you get back to life and you start playing house.
Mm-hmm. And at this time, I was doing Mary Kay pretty much full time, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we had our oldest son, Tony, and then we had our middle son, Mark. And each time we had a child, we were moving. We moved from Davenport.
All three sons were born in Davenport.
Yeah, they were all born there, but moved different houses. We moved from like an apartment to a rental house, from a rental house to. But every time we were moving, I was pregnant, so I didn't have to do anything. I just sat
Well
there.
played. Well played.
I planned that well. And then we moved from Iowa to Pennsylvania, and Tony was getting ready to start kindergarten, and they had a program in the school system in Davenport at that time, where they were trying to get more majority students to go to this one that's elementary school. It was a predominantly black school, and you know how the schools get reputations, and nobody wants to go there, and it's the bad school in the bad district. So they were trying to bring, white students into that school. A good friend of mine was also a guidance counselor at that elementary school, and she says, "Why don't you have Tony come here?" That was our oldest son. And I said, "How's he going to come here?" She said, "Just mark on his form that he's white." I said, "Oh, okay." So
Which is true.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
yeah.
both. So you pick which one you want to work. So he was able to go to that school, and it was an all-day elementary school for kindergartners. Poor child, was picked up at 7 in the morning, and they brought him back on the bus at like 4:35 in the afternoon. But it was a good program. It was all day, so he was learning things that when we moved from there to New Jersey, he was still in kindergarten, and he had taken tests, and they showed how smart he was and all the things he was learning. And I explained that to the principal at the school he was going to be going to here. And this was like in probably August or summertime. She said, "Oh, well, we don't get to that until January." I'm thinking, well, what's he supposed to do from now until January? So, schools just weren't the thing for him, So we kind of had to, encourage him to do schools. That's our oldest. He still is not the studious one, but he's really smart.
It just wasn't challenging for him
It
or
was
what
not
he was.
challenging.
Yeah,
Nope.
that is
So-
kind of a yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we did a lot of stuff with the kids.
So you had 3 boys.
3 boys. Yep.
I say I got. I have a mom of 2 boys.
I
So
know.
I say we got the easy button.
I know.
Right?
I've talked to people who have girls or both, and they say, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you got it easy."
Yeah.
They get it in, they get it out, they're done. Girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have, we had the kids, and Bob was working, and he actually was doing a lot of traveling at the time because he was in the training department for his company. And I kind of felt like a single mom for a lot of those years, maybe.
Yeah.
And, but, we made it work out. There was some, rough patches there, but we got through them. And finally we, retired. We're down the road a bit, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, but back to your kids, they were, biracial in a time that was not very common. Can you speak to that at all about and how you navigated that?
Tony, the one, like I said, was not kind of excited about school at all because of being, they just weren't where he needed to be. And as he got older, I remember once he was in middle school. He had gone through the elementary system, and he got through okay, but nothing exciting. And he wanted to know if he could walk to school. And we were more than a mile or whatever the distance was that would give you school bus transportation. And I said, well, Tony, you can ride on the bus. He said, no, I don't want to ride the bus. Well, we didn't find until years later when the boys were probably late teens, maybe even early 20s or low, and they were talking at the house once, and I overheard them say the reason Tony did not want to go on the bus was because kids were calling him Oreo and Zebra and Stripes and all these names, and he was not the aggressive one. He would always just be laid back. He wouldn't, So yeah, he would just rather not be around them. So he left. I mean, he didn't want to ride the bus. And Mark, who was the middle one, was the big one that played football. He was a linebacker, the whole nine. He was the one that kind of looked out for Tony, And so, yeah, I think Tony was the one that probably had the worst of it because maybe he was oldest and this was the first they'd seen of it. Mark was much more outgoing, and he really didn't meet a stranger. He's kind of like me. He just talks to everybody, and he had all kinds of friends. But the majority of his friends that he really hung close with were black guys, and again, there weren't that many of them in the high schools. But our youngest one, Mike, the one who passed away, we were saying, kind of was just there. It didn't really affect him, either way. But I remember we went to Hawaii once for a vacation, and the boys were all with us, and Tony said he felt, he was in high school, the most comfortable he'd ever been there because he felt like he fit in. Because in Hawaii, you get all kinds of colors and people and everything, and he just always said he was going to move to Hawaii and live on a beach. But
yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that's quite an experience for them, right? They were kind of the trailblazing the way for, and it's a time that you didn't have a lot of reference, I mean, so I'm just wondering as a parent, because there's nothing worse than your kids being mistreated or, being hurt or, being different at all.
Right.
And how did you all navigate that?
I don't know. We just, kind of took a day at a time and kept them involved in things they were interested in and tried to. Tony's always been more of I don't say a recluse, but he's always been more to himself. Introverted. He's like his dad. He always talks about Bob used to play ping pong with himself.
You always won, though, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And he was very much like that, Bob would come home from work and he'd put his briefcase down and he'd go upstairs in the room and he'd be there all night. Tony would come home from school, put his book back down, he'd go upstairs in his room and he'd be there. I'm thinking, he's just like his dad,
Just
so they kind of kept to themselves a lot. Like I said, Mark was more outgoing and he was the one that
both loved to read books.
Yeah,
both readers,
you
both
and Tony
smart.
both love to read books.
Yeah.
They have a lot of similarities, but so they've managed. We've had some challenges in our lives since our marriage, of course, with Bob's throat cancer diagnosis 26 years.
Yeah, so let's
ago.
talk about that because you were sharing the pre-podcast, right? That one of the questions I'm always curious about is how God, plays at the center of your marriage, or how God shows up in your marriage. And again, you shared how you grew up, that you always did church, and Bob, you didn't. So can we talk about when that changed?
Yeah, I had been going to church every week, and, I'd always ask him if he wanted to go. No, he didn't want to go. He just stayed at home. So one day I was getting ready to go, and I noticed he was up getting dressed. I said, what are you doing? He said, I thought I'd go to church today. I said, oh, really? Well, prior to that, he had noticed a nodule on his throat that he hadn't seen before. And he was on the other side of the kitchen, I'll never forget. And he said, come over here and take a look at this. I said, I don't have to come. I can see it from here. I mean, it was that big. Anyway, long story short, he was diagnosed with throat cancer, and he had to have surgery. And before he was to go in for the surgery, this was the Sunday that he said he wanted to go to church with me. And so he came to church that Sunday, and the pastor of the church in New Jersey, he was wonderful. He still is. He's still there. But he came over and said a prayer for him because he knew he was going in for this procedure the next day. And he actually came to the hospital. We went to the University of Pennsylvania where it was held. And, so ever since then, he's been coming to church. And like he said, he's kind of, laid back. He's not like me out there doing everything, but, he gets involved. He comes every Sunday, even when I'm not in town or can't go.
That's true.
He's there by
That's
himself.
right.
I thought,
That's
all right.
right.
So yeah, it's been kind of the focus, of kind of holding us together.
That was just one of my health issues.
One of your health issues.
They call me the Miracle Man.
Really?
After the throat cancer, I was in a car accident. And I collapsed the lung.
Oh.
Broke 8 ribs.
Oh, gosh.
My clavicle. My vertebrae in the back.
Oh, wow.
And 4 cervical vertebrae in my neck. And a cut on my forehead.
Yeah.
And I never forget the hospitalist that kind of oversaw my whole process said, I've never talked to anybody that's broken 8 ribs before.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize exactly what he was saying.
Yeah.
You die.
Because that's holding, yeah.
About, 7, 8 years after that, here in Las Vegas, I was working on the pool pump.
The pool pump, uh-huh.
And it didn't quite lock up back together.
Mm-hmm.
And when I turned it on, the pressure built up.
Oh.
And broke all the bones around my eye.
Oh, no.
So, when I went to see the doctor, he said, we need to operate because that could end up going into your brain.
Yeah.
So they...
Oh, gosh.
I don't know if you want me to describe this.
No, yeah. I mean, we're in it now, Bob. Yeah.
They cut from my left ear over the top.
Ear to ear.
To my right ear.
Peel it open. Oh, my gosh. I mean, Grey's Anatomy, I've heard about this. Great.
Fixed all the bone.
Yeah.
Took a section of fat
Yeah.
out of my leg,
Out of your leg to put back in.
behind the eye.
That's amazing.
Sew me back up.
So one of the things that's been a result of his many fun experiences is he cannot swallow, because when he had the throat cancer, they did radiation, and I don't know what happened, but
Esophagus.
his esophagus closed up.
Oh, okay.
So nothing can go from his throat into his stomach.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he has a feeding tube he's had for 22
Bob, I've never
years.
known that.
Mm-hmm. So
If I try to swallow something, it goes into my lungs.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he hasn't eaten anything in 22 years.
Bob, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really,
It's something, yeah.
it's
and
really something.
I mean, when you think about
Wow.
not being able to swallow, I mean, you can't swallow anything, even saliva. So, it's just something that you get used to.
No, that's really, so first of all, I'm like, my brain is like, that's a lot right there. But before you went in for surgery is when you first decided to go to church. Do you think there was just, looking back now, what do you make of that moment when you decided, this is the day I think I'm going to go to church?
I thought anything could help.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I honestly, I didn't grow up going to church either. I was never going to go to church again, but ain't nobody got time for that podcast. But, and now living my life the way it is, I just think, I don't know how people get through stuff like that without their faith. I don't know how you get through, those kinds of things that you've been through.
When I was a kid, I was raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
A very good friend of ours who was actually one of my babysitters for a while,
Mm-hmm.
was a nun, became a nun.
Mm-hmm.
And she also became the youngest principal of a Catholic high school at the time,
Okay.
or Catholic school.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember what grades.
Okay.
And then something happened. Nobody would ever tell me what happened. But she stopped being a nun, and my folks stopped going to church.
Okay.
Something to do with why she left
Okay. So your babysitter, nun, principal of the school, and now that ends and you're not sure, but that's so your family doesn't go to church anymore. So something catastrophic enough happened to cause them to leave. And so that you're what age about then when that happens?
Probably around 9.
Around 9. So then that's the end of going to church. So until
Picked up years later.
yeah. Can you imagine your life with a different choice? Can you imagine looking back, had you not decided to get up and go to church, or can you point to some places where, you could see that?
I think based on my medical issues, the phrase, God's not through with you yet,
God's not through with you yet,
kind of falls into place.
Yeah. And so, Kay, I love how accepting you are of each other. Like you marry Kay in spite of your parents, not accepting you. You marry him in spite of that too, knowing that you're not accepted. You marry him knowing like church isn't his jam. I mean, I love the unconditional love you have for each other, because some of these could be deal breakers for people, certainly. But so then I just want to know, like, he decided to go to church. Like, is this something you had prayed for or hoped for or wished for, thought would ever come?
It's funny, when we lived in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, when we had kids, I guess that was it, because, you always want your kids to go to church and have that background. So I would go to church with them, and they would go to Sunday schools and all. And we actually went to, and I want to say belonged to, a Baptist church in Pennsylvania. And he would go sometimes just to be there. But his thing when we lived in Iowa was he would play golf on Sunday mornings with some of his guy friends. And I said, you should be at church. He said, what was your saying for that? You're in God's?
Of course, Church of God.
The Church of God at the clubhouse, yeah.
So that was his religion. So when we moved here and he decided to come that one time, it was like, oh my gosh, it actually works.
That's
here,
amazing. That's amazing.
And I think the thing that really impressed me most was, like I said, if I wasn't going to church, he would still go.
Yeah, that's when you know, right? That's when you know.
And we haven't said this directly to David, but I think he's been very instrumental in me getting closer to believing in God than anybody else that we've ever been associated with.
Yeah. David has a way of gently, shepherding us along the path. And somehow, I don't know how he does it, because people that are sitting out there are many years into the journey, or the first time their foot, I don't know how he carries us down the path at the different places that we are. But yeah, that's nice of you to say. He's truly gifted, and God definitely works through his words, for sure.
Definitely his presentation. And how he explains the Bible and the stories.
Pastor David, he doesn't judge us. He pushes us along, and I know that means a lot to hear, like, people like you say this is, that this did something for your faith. So, one of the questions, because that's so many years married, I'm curious about the values that you share, that because you allude to, obviously there are rough patches. It wasn't every day, wasn't probably easy peasy, on top of, raising children. That's hard. Being biracial in that time, that's hard. And being a single mom when, Bob's traveling and working, that's hard. So what are kind of the core values that you share, or the things that you think kept you together through all these years?
I think just the
family.
Unit, the family unit. I always kid about this, but there's a lot of truth to it. The reason that we've survived for 52 years is very simple. It's 2 words.
2 words.
Yes, dear.
Yes, dear. I know. That's it. Yes, dear. You're I'm going to tell you, a lot of usually men have told me that this is the secret. Most things aren't really worth making a big deal out of, right? When it comes down to it.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you think of it, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, will this really make a difference?
Does this really matter?
Yeah.
Does this really matter? Talk about your children now. And you had 3 sons.
Yeah, we have 3 sons. Our oldest son, Tony, is visually impaired. He lost his vision about 10 years ago, and so he stays with us. He's in his almost 50. And he's single, never married, no kids or anything. But and our middle son, Mark, lives here in North Las Vegas. He's married, has a son who is 14 years old. And our youngest son, Mike, who passed away 5 years ago, has a son who's back in New Jersey with his mom. And they're all wonderful kids. Well, Mike was wonderful. But that was another whole thing that, talk about some of the rough patches that we had. When he was sick, in New Jersey, and Bob and I were going back. He would go for 2 weeks, I would go for 2 weeks. Every other week, And he had some pancreatitis something or other, that it wasn't cancer, but it was something that was going wrong, and it just got worse. And the last couple of years, though, he came back here, and he was with us and going to dialysis and doctor appointments and everything. So we kind of feel like we had a couple bonus years with him. His wife was back in Jersey, but there was a little stuff going on there. But anyway, so we had both of them here for a while, and then Mark is here. So that's our family. We've always had a very small family. It's just my sister and me, and then it was me and my 3 kids. She had 2 girls, and
your sister lives here too.
My sister lives here now. My mom had moved here before she passed away. My mom lives here.
Nice.
Yeah, and so
Wait, who's your sister?
Marquita Gilmer. She's a liturgist.
I did not know that was your sister.
Are you kidding?
Oh. No.
Yeah, she's my sister with
Marquita?
the short. Wait,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh my word.
Yeah, that's my.
How did I not know that?
A lot of people don't, I guess. And
I had no idea.
Yeah, she's my
she's so cute too. Yeah.
She's lived here, 4 or 5 years?
Almost 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's been coming here. And
she's so sweet.
One of my childhood friends from high school, kindergarten, Joanne Williams and her husband Tom, they came here. They moved from Sacramento, but then they've recently moved back to Sacramento. But they came to the church and they've joined, and so we've known each other for years. I have another group of girls that get together once a month here in Las Vegas that all went to high school together, and we go out to lunch once a month. Just all ended up having to live in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So our family has been, that's been the basis for us. It's not a big one, but we stay close.
Yeah.
And so
I'm still like, Marquita's your sister. I'm just like kind of.
It's funny because we're both in the same sorority, obviously, which we joined in at Drake in Des Moines. So whenever we go to sorority functions, everybody is a soror or a sister or whatever. And I said, no, she's really my sister.
She's my sister.
Like my sister's sister.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's really great. Well, and we didn't talk about how you came to Desert Spring, how it is you first came here.
When we moved here, another kindergarten friend that I've known forever, Laura Collins, she's since passed away. Laura, we had been talking.
You here?
Yep.
Oh.
She said, "Oh, you got to come to my church." She said, "We got this minister. He's got this long hair, and he's about our
he
age."
did have that wild hair, huh?
And so she invited us here, and I came the first Sunday. We moved here on a Friday. And all of our furniture and everything came that Saturday, and I came to church with Laura that Sunday. She went to the 11 o'clock services.
Yes.
So Bob didn't come that week, but I came, and I thought it was really great. And the next week he came, and we went to the 9:30 service, which was more traditional, because there were certain things that I was kind of looking for in a church. I wanted a church, this is crazy, that had a choir that had robes.
You know what? You're not the first person I've heard
Really?
say that.
Yeah.
It matters for some. Yeah.
I know it. And I wanted a church that had handbells, because I played handbells
yes,
back
you
in
do.
Pennsylvania. Yeah. And I wanted a church that had a rummage sale. Now
Are you going to bring the rummage sale back, Kate?
No.
It's all on you if you want that.
I know it. The year we moved here, the church did have a rummage sale. And
back
I was
in the day.
involved with that a lot. But we had 2 big ones at our church in Jersey every year. And they were huge moneymakers. So those were the 3 things. So when Laura said, yeah, we have a handbell choir. Yeah, we have this. Yeah, we have that. I said, okay. And I never went to another church in Vegas. Every other city that we've lived in, you know how you visit churches
Shop
and
around.
you shop for churches? And I never did that. Once I came here and met the people and met David. And of course, Laura was here, and it just felt like home.
So you've only known David.
This is all I've ever known is David.
Yeah. So for listeners who may not be from Desert Spring, we've had a pastor. This is his 16th year, and he's rude enough to think he's retiring. Rude.
I know. But I am so excited.
But we have some exciting news coming because, we have a new pastor coming, and it's been announced, and we're excited about,
Very excited.
In so many ways.
Yes.
In so many ways, I just, as happy as you can be about a sad thing, like, it's you can hold both those things at the same time, like sadness that he's leaving and still joy like for coming. And so I'm excited to see what happens.
I am too. My daughter-in-law, Mark's wife here, when they married, she had 3 children. They were 8, 9, and 10 years old at the time. Well, the oldest son, who's in his 20s, 30s right now, has a daughter who's living here in Las Vegas with his sister, my granddaughter. So she is my step-great-granddaughter. She's been here to church a few times, Melina.
Yes, Melina, yeah.
And she's so funny. She just loves Pastor David. When she came to church the other day and we were leaving out, she went over to him. She says, "I hear you are retiring." He said, "Yes, I am going to retire." He says, and my grandma says, she's excited about it.
Well,
I thought, not that part. I'm excited about the part of that's what's coming,
Yeah.
But she was so cute. And when she came over for Easter Sunday, she just walked right in the church. She's in line from the 8 o'clock service. She walks right over to Pastor David.
And he loves that too. You know that he does. Yeah. So for listeners, we are getting new pastor, Reverend Sharon Williams. Mm-hmm. She is a woman, and she is a woman of color.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, I saw her when she came. She passed by. I was in a Zoom meeting, and when she was meeting SPRC, and she just seems very elegant and lovely. And there are many cyber stalkers who've been cyber stalking her and have listened to podcasts.
Who might that be?
Yeah. So she's done some podcast episodes also.
Yep.
We're going to have to get her on here.
Yeah.
But I think it's certainly a sign of the times. It's encouraging. Yeah. I love Desert Spring because it is, especially if you're not from here, Summerlin, it's pretty more diverse than you would expect a church in Summerlin to be. And I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. This is not the diversity capital of the world. And I will tell you that raising my children here in Las Vegas has been very valuable for me. People are like, how do you raise your kids in Las Vegas? Well, let me tell you how you do. They go outside to play, and there's the Hispanic family there, the Indian girl there, and all of the different, Chinese girl from here, just all these people from different countries and different parts of the world that come, and it just makes it so diverse. Together. And I love that we have that, and I love to see. But anyway, well, we got excited about that. But so last question for y'all and regarding marriage. There are a lot of younger people. A lot of our listeners are younger and kind of like in the throes of, newlywed or raising young family, young children, and it's hard. And the divorce rates. And so, what advice do you give to those that are really struggling right now?
I think the biggest thing for any couple is communication. You've got to talk to each other. If something is bothering you, don't go tell your girlfriend about it. Tell your partner about it. If it's something about your partner that's bothering you, then you might go tell your girlfriend. But you've got to bring it back so that you're always working on the same plane. It's not like, well, she's thinking that over here and I'm thinking this over here. If you don't talk about it, you'll never know how to get it on the same level.
Yeah.
Just don't talk.
Just don't talk.
He's good at that too.
Don't listen. Don't just talk. Listen.
That's true.
Okay, I thought you were saying just don't talk. Listening, and I think it's true because we all have our little scenarios in our heads, and when you actually do sit down and talk, it's like, what, you thought that? That's not it at all.
Right.
So it seems like simple advice.
And when you think about the divorce rate and all that, people don't seem to put I won't say the value in marriage anymore, but you go into a marriage thinking like, oh, well, half the people that get married get divorced. That's not the way you go into a marriage. You go into a marriage thinking, I'm going to be here until I die, And it's just not, even like we were talking before about moving in together, and living together when we lived right next door to each other. it's just not what we're used to. So today's society we know is totally different, and people have different values and morals. But the main thing is, if you're going to make a commitment to somebody, make a commitment to that person.
I love it.
Don't be ready to just jump ship at the first sign of a wave.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. I don't want this episode to end. I love you guys.
We've gone a long time here.
But okay. But if I said last question, but I lied. I just want to know one maybe fun or silly fact about Bob that people may not know, or any kind of fact.
I think we just
what might be surprising
that he can't eat. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's big. I didn't know that.
That's a big one. Yeah.
What about Kay? Is there something that maybe we wouldn't know about Kay? She's a break dancer? What is she doing here? She's making hand motions. I can't tell.
she's actually a black belt in karate.
Yeah. Oh, a break dancer. And from here it looks like break dancing. Kay is a black belt in karate. So this explains a lot now. I'm starting to understand.
Yes, dear.
Yes, dear.
He's a first-degree brown belt, too. So.
Okay, he's catching up. Third degree. He's correcting you.
Sorry, third degree brown belt, yeah.
Well, I thank you both so much for, being willing to come and share your story. It's really, truly beautiful. 52 years. I said before the podcast, y'all been married longer than I've been brushing my teeth. So it's really, I admire that. I admire anything that anytime you can stick to that. Anyone who can do anything for 52 years, but to stay married and to, especially with all you've been through together, even before you got started, is just a true testament. And so Christ's light shines definitely through each of you. You're a gift to us at Desert Spring, and I thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story.
Well, thank you.
And I do want the cheerleader picture later. I
do have one.
Okay, I'm going to have to see that. With that, if it's okay, I'm going to close this out in prayer. Gracious, loving God, we just give you thanks for just what a beautiful story that Bob and Kay have, and that they were willing to share with us. We lift up them and their marriage, and we give you thanks for all that you've gotten them through, for being able to endure, prejudice, racism, hurt, illness, injuries, loss. For all that they've been through, we are just grateful that they have had each other, and that, of course, they've had you at the center of their marriage. We thank you for the example of what it is to be a Christian that they are in the world, and the example of marriage and what it means to, above all, to love. We just ask you to continue to bless them and their marriage and their family and all that they do, that your light may continue to shine so brightly in this world. Amen.